What happens when the world's most sanctioned nation tells the world's most armed nation to take one wrong step and face the fire? On March 31st, 2025, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei didn't just warn the United States. He dared it. In front of thousands gathered for Eid al-Fitr prayers in Tehran, he made it clear, Iran is not looking for war. But if war comes, America will pay the highest price. And with the US accusing Tehran of nearing nuclear weapons capability and Iran refusing to back down, the world is once again teetering on the edge of a catastrophic conflict, this time with nukes on the table. The warning was clear. The timing is precise. The audience, the entire world. Khamenei's words were not diplomatic. They were a red line, and that red line is glowing under the pressure of Trump's return to power, new threats of bombing, stealth bombers on alert, and uranium enrichment that's pushing dangerously close to weapons grade. Forget quiet diplomacy. This is now a full-blown game of nuclear chicken. But what can Iran do against the US? Let's find out. To understand the defiance in Ayatollah Khamenei's voice in 2025, you have to rewind to a decade of American decisions that left Iranian leaders convinced of one thing. Negotiation with Washington is a death sentence wearing a tuxedo. Iran's current posture isn't sudden. It's the result of surgical assassinations, broken agreements, and a legacy of humiliation at the hands of Western powers. And now, as Trump pushes the nuclear standoff into the red zone, Iran isn't signaling panic. It's a signaling memory. And memory, in this case, is weaponized. The United States didn't just sanction Iran, it shattered something deeper. The illusion that diplomacy buys safety. Ask any Iranian general about 2020, and their eyes will darken. That's when the US drone strike in Baghdad killed General Qasem Soleimani, head of Iran's elite Quds force. No warning, no war declaration, just obliteration on the tarmac. It was a moment that changed everything. Khamenei mourned publicly, but behind closed doors, Iran's strategic doctrine mutated. That strike told Tehran what they had long suspected. America doesn't respect boundaries. It redraws them with Hellfire missiles. Since then, Iran's strategy shifted from defensive deterrence to asymmetric threat calibration. That's a fancy way of saying, you bomb us, we'll hit back. But we'll choose the time, place, and method that hurts most. Tehran stopped thinking like a nation and started thinking like a network. It built ties with non-state actors not just as proxies, but as extensions of its immune system. If the head is attacked, the limbs react autonomously. But the assassination of Soleimani wasn't the only lesson. Another came wrapped in diplomacy and ink. The collapse of the JCPOA. In 2015, when the Obama administration signed the nuclear deal with Iran, there was cautious optimism. Iran paused its enrichment program, allowed inspectors, and in return, got relief from crippling sanctions. For a brief moment, Tehran believed cooperation could coexist with sovereignty. That dream was shattered when Trump pulled out of the agreement in 2018 with a stroke of a pen and no international justification. Iran froze. The West applauded. And then came the snapback sanctions, strangling Iran's economy like a garrote. What's relevant in 2025 is how those two betrayals, the drone strike and the broken deal, forged Iran's current posture. It no longer views peace offers from Washington as genuine but as bait. Every letter sent by the White House is now read like a death warrant in elegant language. That's why Khamenei didn't even flinch when Trump sent his ultimatum this year. He knew the script, and he wasn't buying it. But something else is fueling Iran's hardened line: the emergence of a post-American regional axis. The past 3 years have seen a quiet but profound geopolitical shift in the Middle East. While the US focused on China, Iran deepened its strategic ties with Moscow and Beijing, and even closer coordination with regional players like Syria and Iraq. Iran no longer believes it stands alone. It believes America's threats are losing potency, not just because they're repetitive, but because they're increasingly unenforceable. You see it in how Iran interprets Washington's moves. When B-2 bombers fly toward Diego Garcia, Iran doesn't see power, it sees desperation. When Trump speaks of bombing the likes of which the world has never seen, Iranian analysts don't panic. They compare it to past bluffs that fizzled out. The cost of a US strike now, Iran believes, is too high even for a reckless administration. And so, for the first time in years, Iran isn't just reacting to US aggression. It's shaping the psychological battlefield. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. Khamenei's speech, the one that made headlines worldwide, was loaded with psychological maneuvering. By calling American aggression unlikely, he effectively downplayed US threat credibility, a rare move in military strategy. Most nations exaggerate the enemy to justify defensive buildup. Iran instead diminished America's willingness to act, signaling supreme confidence in its deterrence posture. It wasn't arrogance, it was a calculated dismissal. More intriguingly, Iran is not just speaking to the US, it's speaking to the global South. As African nations, Latin America, and Southeast Asia grow weary of US hegemony, Iran is painting itself as the anti-colonial holdout, battered, bloodied, but never broken. This isn't just propaganda, it's recruitment. Every time Iran defies Washington and survives, it sends a message. The old world order can be challenged. So when analysts say nukes are on the table, what they really mean is this: Iran has accepted that peace with America might be impossible, that survival might require escalation, that the old rules, where the US hits and others absorb, are no longer valid. Iran has rewritten the rules in blood and uranium, and now it dares the US to read them. Iran's nuclear program has become something far more complex than a rush for the bomb. It's a shield, a bargaining chip, a red line, and a trap, all rolled into one. What once looked like enrichment is now entrenchment. After years of watching how the West negotiates, with pressure, betrayal, and the occasional missile, Iran no longer treats uranium like fuel. It treats it like language. Every percentage of enrichment now speaks a message. 3.67% was diplomacy. 20% was a warning. That's a roar. That's Iran yelling in the language of centrifuges, and the world can hear it, loud and trembling. The International Atomic Energy Agency's most recent report confirmed what many feared. Iran's uranium stockpile has soared far beyond anything that could reasonably be justified for civilian purposes. But Tehran's calculus has changed. It no longer feels the need to justify anything. That's the point. When you operate in a system where compliance is met with more sanctions and cooperation is rewarded with drone strikes, what exactly is the incentive to play fair? Instead, Iran is building what regional analysts now call a nuclear ambiguity trap. It goes like this: enrich just below weapons grade, avoid formal breakout, but make sure the threat is always one technical turn away. You force your enemies to constantly guess. You create diplomatic paralysis. You buy time. And in buying time, you buy power. Iran isn't declaring its nuclear hand. It's forcing others to fold out of fear. This tactic isn't theoretical. It's been years in development. Iran has mastered what it calls escalation with deniability. It enriches just far enough to rattle the West, but never far enough to justify preemptive war. It builds hardened sites under mountains, shifts centrifuges between facilities, and trains scientists to operate like field generals. Meanwhile, its messaging to the global public is carefully calibrated. We're not seeking a bomb, we're seeking independence. But independence in this context has a very specific meaning. Iran doesn't want nuclear weapons for Hiroshima. It wants them for Hiroshima prevention. It believes that only the credible threat of unbearable retaliation can prevent a superpower from trying regime change again. After Iraq, after Libya, after Afghanistan, the lesson was simple. Nuclear ambiguity is not just protection, it's liberation from US interference. And now, in 2025, this strategy has matured. The JCPOA is dead. The trust deficit is total. Even the remaining European signatories, Britain, France, and Germany, are growing visibly nervous. Iran hasn't expelled inspectors, but it's begun to limit their access in subtle but significant ways. Cameras turned off, visits delayed, facilities reclassified. What began as a transparent program is now a maze of shadow and silence. And yet, there's something even more strategic at play. Iran is not just building capacity, it's building inevitability. In its state-run media, nuclear advancement is framed not as an arms race, but as a rite of passage. It is tied to national pride, scientific sovereignty, and religious resistance. The narrative is simple and potent. The West has nukes. Israel has nukes. Why can't we? It's not just about defense anymore. It's about equality, about respect, or more accurately, the demand for it. This domestic shift is powerful. Every announcement of a new reactor, a breakthrough in enrichment, a new centrifuge design, it doesn't just inform Iranians, it hardens them. It prepares them for the cost of defiance and rallies them under the logic that if the bomb stops the bombers, then enrichment is survival. And that logic is now operationalized through Iran's two-track nuclear posture. One track is public-facing, uranium enrichment, civilian energy expansion, and medical isotopes. The second track is shrouded, classified missile systems, hardened silos, and AI-aided targeting systems. Iran doesn't need to test a bomb to show it has one. In the information age, the world just needs to believe it could. That belief is exactly what has Washington worried, and increasingly silent. Every week that passes without a breakthrough in talks, every missile test in Iranian deserts, and every leaked IAEA report about new centrifuge installations tightens the noose around U.S. strategic options. Attack too soon, and you trigger a global catastrophe. Wait too long, and you risk an Iranian bomb. But what if that's the trap? What if Iran is building just enough nuclear tension to deter a war, not invite one? What if the bomb is not the goal, but the bluff? That's what makes Iran's current posture so dangerous. Not because it is irrational, but because it is terrifyingly rational. This is no rogue state racing toward Armageddon. This is a nation playing four-dimensional chess with fissile material, and the pieces are spinning fast. It isn't about whether Iran has the bomb. It's about whether the world believes it's willing to use it, or at least go far enough to force everyone else to never risk finding out. In that sense, Iran's nuclear psychology has shifted from capability to consequence. And now, as the centrifuges spin and the pressure mounts, the message is unmistakable. The bomb may still be underground, but the threat, that's already in the air. Do you think the US should make the mistake of attacking Iran? Is a new war breaking? Let us know in the comment section. What happens when the war actually begins? Will the US be able to face Iran? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.